It's time to share secrets and insights from fellow entrepreneurs. If you're looking to grow or start a business and you're a game changer, then keep listening to Avanti Entrepreneur for great advice from your host, Dave Mammano, America's Entrepreneur Coach.
Hey, Avanti Tribe, Dave Mammano here. Just want to thank our sponsor, Paychex. You know, Paychex, they make it simple for businesses of all sizes to pay and manage their team. They make payroll easy with employee pay options, including direct deposit, checks, pay cards, and so much more. Founded over 4 decades ago to relieve the complexity of running a business so that the owners can focus on what matters most. Above all else, and more than any other company, Paychex makes it simple. Visit AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Go to our partner link and check them out. They're offering you a free month of payroll just for giving them a shot as an Avanti Tribe member. Give them a shot, folks. They really help this podcast to be possible. Really appreciate Paychex. Now, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Dave Mammano, your host, and we're here to help achievers and business owners and leaders like you move forward so that they can reach their potential. That's what Avanti means in Italian. It means move forward, and this podcast is going to do it for you. And the way I do that is I interview great rock star business movers and shakers. And today I have on the show an excellent rock star. His name is Gregory, and I'm allowed to call him Greg. So Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Very happy to have you here, Greg. We're going to get in your bio, and then I got a ton of questions for you. So Greg, after a successful 20-plus year in the manufacturing and services industry, Gregory Great left the corporate world in 2010 to pursue his purpose of developing incredible leaders and teams supported by high-performance cultures. As a leadership and business consultant, he has also owned several businesses along the way. His business advisory firm, Gray Solutions, is built around one common principle: to help you find your purpose and joy in life and your business. Whether you desire freedom of time, wealth, or purpose, his team can help. They offer executive and business coaching, along with courses, programs, and workshops specifically designed to affect the positive transformation so you can realize your desired vision and lifestyle. Gregory is a father of 2 daughters, ages 16 and 14, and has been married for 21 years to his best friend, Kim. They live south of Nashville on a farm where they raise grass-fed beef and lamb, and they love their lifestyle and are living their vision daily. Greg, it sounds like the dream over here.
Well, that's exactly what we're intending to do. That's our intention.
I mean, I feel like we should start playing the theme song from Leave It to Beaver. I mean, this sounds great.
That's great.
Obviously, been a great business success. You got married to your best friend, 21 years, 2 beautiful daughters, and you're even a farmer on the side. I mean, this is great to hear. So, and you just do that for fun, right? You're not a professional farmer per se, right?
No, not really. We raise some beef and lamb, like you said there, and we enjoy partaking in it, and some people that live around us enjoy it as well. So it's a passion for fulfilling one of our desires, but it's not the full-time thing we do at all.
Greg, I'm very interested in talking to you because I've checked out your websites and I saw some client testimonials and some raving fans about your service, and so you're truly helping people with their businesses and with their lives, and I'm sure both at the same time, right? Because they're obviously they're very intertwined, and wanted to talk to you specifically about your program, and it seems like wherever you look on LinkedIn and Facebook, etc., there is a huge sea of business coaches and consultants these days, right? Whereas 20 years ago, if you were a coach, it usually meant like a sport, right?
Right.
And so how do you, as a very successful business coach and consultant, how do you stand out in that sea of sameness to really have some unique advantages and build your own Gregory Gray tribe?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways you do that. And one is it's leaning into the experience that you've had. I was blessed to grow up in some industries that are top notch. And so I've run manufacturing plants and divisions and other companies, including a couple of my own. And what I think separates many coaches from a coach like myself is that experiential knowledge. a lot of people come out and become a coach based on knowledge. And knowledge is okay, but knowledge can be a trap. It's, applied knowledge is what's critical. And so we delve into some things that I've actually done. And the people that I work with, we've had our hands on it. We've been there. We've tested it and made our mistakes along the way. And now we're trying to help small business owners not do the same thing. And one of the things that we've put together, we have a program called 4 Steps to Business Freedom. And so it's a proprietary program that we have that we walk business owners through. It can take anywhere from 12 months to 2 years, depending on what they're trying to accomplish. And so we have, productized our offering, if you will, that's unique. Nobody else offers it. There's a handful of coaches around the country who work together, and we actually apply this system, if you will. And we take business owners through from becoming a technical business owner. In other words, they're a technician. They're either a plumber or an engineer or an architect or even a doctor, and they grow up from being a technician to a true business owner. That's what we help them transition to, and help them go through a journey of growing up in their business, if you will. And then there's another factor we work on, which is taking the business owner from being an owner to a true CEO. So as they grow and scale, they have to put on a different hat from time to time than what they did to start the business. And so we really focus on what's that process to help them grow as a leader, but also grow the business from a structural standpoint.
What do you see common, I'm going to say mistakes, or you could say learning lessons that a lot of the businesses are making before they start working with you?
Yeah, there's 2 what I call failure points that are pretty systemic throughout small business owners' transitions. And one has to do with the owner themselves and them not discovering their own blind spots and understanding that what got you there is not going to keep you there and what's not going to take you to the next level. So as they start their business and they may have just a few employees, it's one animal to corral, if you will. If you take and you add quite a few more employees and a lot more revenue and a lot more dynamic of that business, now you have what's called chaos. Sometimes it's controlled chaos. And so going through those steps, the business owner tends to forget about how they are interacting or leading with their team. And so these blind spots start becoming the kryptonite of that owner, and they need help seeing that. And sometimes it's only a coach or a third party or a spouse or somebody that's removed from the day-to-day that can say, hey, look, I need to help you with this. Employees are not going to come to you and necessarily tell you because they're fearful for what the impact might be to them. So we work with that. The second piece, I think, that is even more important that I find in 90+% of the engagements I go into is they don't have what's called a vision story. They may have a business plan. They may have an idea where their business wants to go, but they have never sat down and spent the hours required to put a vision story on paper and then be able to explain that to them and their team and anybody that's interacting with them. So the vision story encompasses, and the reason why I talk about life and business together is because it encompasses everything that affects the business owner, from family, maybe their faith, their business, their income, the culture of the business. All these things that impact the owner's life has to be considered, because a business is not a entity unto itself by itself. It impacts the life, and the life impacts it. So you have to work on both sides in congruency. Otherwise, you have a failed mission and plan, quite honestly.
Sure. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey. So how did you really get your experience to be such a great business coach?
Well, and I was like I said, I was very blessed to work with some very large companies out of college, and I got to touch every aspect of a business through that journey. So I started out in finance, if you will. Then I ended up in, touching accounting and marketing and sales and logistics and operations and all those things. So, and even human resources. So, being able to touch and be a part of all those pieces as I grew in my career as an employee, really allowed me to make mistakes on their dime, if you will, mm-hmm. and to really, do some introspective thoughts on myself and investigations of myself along the way, because I wanted to be a better leader as I grew. So when I was, in my late 20s, I got handed the keys to a plant and said, basically run the plant. And that was daunting for me because it was basically running your own business. So then, having full P&L responsibility for the next 20 plus years really helps to round you out, because you have to know how to handle all aspects of the business. So, making those mistakes, within a big organization, they're not as critical as they would be if they were your own business. And so then as I progressed along the way and managed many more people, and some of these facilities would have over 1,000 people in them and a lot of moving pieces, you really could see how to go from a growth, a kind of a steady aspect to a growth aspect. And I started doing some turnaround activities in that path. And then as you start doing turnarounds, it's basically just like what we do now when we go into a small business. It's like, okay, let's analyze where we're at, where do we want to be, and what are the gaps? And it's really that simple. 20 years ago, it would have been, somewhat daunting to me. Today, it's very simple. There's a plan that we need to put together, and then we need to execute that plan. And so, business in and of itself is not very different from one business to the other. And, everyone wants to think their business is special. And there are some uniquenesses to those businesses, but there's also 80% of each business is very similar, right? You've got to make money. You've got to have sales. You got to have top line, bottom line. You got to treat people right, and you got to have the right processes. And so that's what we work on. We work on people, processes, and then the performance that comes out of those people and those processes.
Excellent. Can you, without any names being said, would you be able to give us an example of a business that came to you and maybe the wheels had come off the bus and what did you have to do? What are some of the I'll say techniques that you would put in place to stop the bleeding, put the wheels back on, and then get them running again? Because there's a lot of businesses like that, right? They're these founders like me. They're the mad scientists that birth the business and start making some money, and things are great until our greatest strength becomes the company's biggest weakness, right? And
Yes.
But we don't know that, and we continue, and then before you know it, we're heading, as Mario Andretti says, if you're not walking back to the pit stop every now and then with just the steering wheel, you're not trying hard enough. So someone comes to you at the steering wheel. What are some of the first things you're going to do to get them back in the race, and then let them grow from there?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because there's usually some basic fundamentals you have to look at in any situation, and it can come. It's usually around people or processes, one of those two things, and typically it's a sales issue. They're not making enough revenue, or it's a cost issue. They're making a lot of sales but they're not making profit, so it's a profit issue in the end of the thing. Or there's an upsetness within the people that needs to be discussed. So a lot of times when a team is not moving in the right direction, let's just say it's a small business with 10 people, and I've got a couple in my mind that, without giving you names, like you said, I can frame this discussion around where you walk in and realize the reason why the business is stagnant is because the business owner is not getting the honest feedback from those people. The team is stagnant because they have conflict within them. The trust level's low. And so we'll go through and in this particular case, we would go through and do a 360 review with that team and find out what's really, truly going on. And a 360 review is something that a coach can do anonymously, get the honest feedback, take that summation of feedback and take it back to the business owner and say, here's where your problems are. There's some infighting going on. There's some things going on that you probably haven't seen because they're keeping it hidden from you. And so we go through and uncover that. So that's an example of dealing with a team. Sometimes you go in and you look at the profitability of their high selling product, and you find out it's not really profitable. So, they're basically doing a loss leader, thinking they're just making all this production on this product, and realize it's not. It could be a service, it could be a hard product, it could be anything of that nature, and find out that the numbers don't add up. So it could be anything from in between those things, and it usually goes back to a process that's not in place to identify those issues. And so we try to put things in place, like key performance indicators or a dashboard that shows that, okay, hey, these things are getting out of line. So the next time this happens, the business owner is not surprised by it. They're actually watching it on a repetitive basis. So it's usually that either they don't know to look in that area, or they've never looked in that area before, or they're not getting the feedback they need from that area.
Excellent. So my previous company was a company called Next Step Magazine, and we built a national magazine for high school students. We helped them with college planning. Because it's a pretty big team, and I remember that I would review everybody, and then I would have the managers review, and but then one day I realized that nobody was reviewing me. I think I walk on water, but maybe not. Let's see. So what I did is I set up one of these kind of 360 review type of things, but just so that everybody could do it on me. And I said it was anonymous, right? So say whatever you want. I'm not going to know who you are. You're going to be doing me a disservice if you're not honest. I want to hear everything. And then I said that, I had 3 or 4 managers at the time. And I said, you guys can present the results to me. And so that was the plan. So the managers came to me and they said, Dave, we have the results. And I said, oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that. Let's set a time to talk. And they were like, well, we're a little nervous because everything's not great. There's some good stuff, but there's some good, bad, and there's some ugly. I was like, great. That's what I wanted. Bring it. And they're like, yeah, but Dave, you could fire us, I was like, I said, I will fire you if you don't bring it all, right? I want it all, and they did. And, there was some good stuff. There was some, and then there was some punches in the stomach, right? Things that I had no idea. And I described that experience as the most enjoyable punch in the stomach I ever had, right?
Absolutely. But you needed to know. You had to know, or you can't fix it, right?
I needed to know. I thought I was beloved, and some of me was, and some of me wasn't. And so it gave me some great things to work on. One of the things was they pretty clear that they felt I wasn't a good listener. I pretended, supposedly I looked like I was listening, but they could tell I wasn't. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I'm very, very cognizant of that going forward to make sure that I was very, very specifically paying attention. And so, it definitely was helpful, and I would continue to do it. So I thought, that experience, you probably do some version of that for the CEO as well, so they could become self-aware, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have a very detailed 360 we do for teams like that, and CEOs and executives. But if somebody's listening to this and they say, man, I just want to do something simple. What can I do quickly? Yeah. There's a simple exercise I would give them. It's called stop, start, and continue. Mm-hmm. You just put stop, start, and continue on the page, 3 different levels of the page, and just hand it out to your whole team and say, what do I need to start doing? What do I need to stop doing? What do you want me to continue doing? Now, 90% of what they're going to put on the page is going to be what you need to start doing or stop doing. Probably stop's going to be the most filled out. So leave space for those 2. The one that says continue, they're not going to say much because they don't need to think about that. But if you can have them do that and giving it to you anonymously, it's a very good way to get some very quick feedback. What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? I did that one time with a team. I was running a plant, and a young lady handed me her paper back, and it was anonymous, but she wanted to hand it to me direct. And she said, I just really want to talk to you about this. And there was something I can't remember what it was today, but there was something I was saying to her that was sort of a pet peeve for her, and it was kind of setting her sideways. And when I realized that was bothering her, and whatever it was I was saying, I could eliminate that from my vocabulary with her, and it made her days much better. I would never have known that, and she would never felt like she could come to me if I hadn't opened that door. So sometimes just opening that door will precipitate some great changes and great relationship building activities. So I recommend it.
That's fantastic. So, what I have seen in my 20 plus years now of being an entrepreneur is that I'll say, I'm almost, want to say most, I'll say, many entrepreneurs, founders, are not the ones at some point to continue running the company, right? Yes. To make that transition to that next level. Why is that? And what traits do you see in the entrepreneur of the person that is the right person to continue to be CEO of a bigger company?
Well, if you've ever read the book Rocket Fuel, it talks about, the visionary and the integrator or implementator, whichever one you like to use. Yeah. And the entrepreneur is the typical visionary. The shiny penny flies by, they grab it, they see an opportunity, and there's 100 shiny pennies running around all over the place. And hopefully they grab 1 or 2 and they can make them happen with the right team. But as a company grows, that phraseology of mindset has to change. Some entrepreneurs can make that change. Some have the personality to make the change. Some choose to make that change. It can be a difficult stretch, but they still make the change, and they can grow up from being a owner to a CEO. Some very wise visionary entrepreneurs realize, one, they don't want to do that. Secondly, they shouldn't do that. And so they go hire that CEO, or they hire that general manager, or whatever the title is for that person to run the operations of the business, which is the integrator and an implementator. So, it's very wise to look at your personality style. We use a DISC profile. We've used other profiles, and understand what you're made up of, where your zone of genius really is. Stay in that zone of genius and don't try to be something you're not. You own it. You still make the final decisions on everything, but let somebody that can really run that racetrack at a different speed than you do that for yourself and for your business, because then everybody will be much happier. Some people that found small businesses, they couldn't sell anything that they wanted to. And so they have to go hire a great salesperson. And some are the salesperson, but they couldn't run operations to save their life. And so you just need to know that about yourself. And at the end of the day, the ego is not what's important. What's important is the results of that business and how you're treating your clients and your employees. So focus on that, and it'll all work out. The ego will be fine when you write that book about that business venture.
Yep.
And
when you got a big bag of money at home after the sale, right?
Right. It's what you have to decide. What's important, right? Is it important to feed your ego? I can tell you, I've got a business owner in my mind right now that his ego will not allow him to let go of the reins of his business. And because of that, it's been very stagnant for many, many years. And I was engaged with him for a period of time, and I literally told him that. I said, look, you're not willing to make the change. I cannot help you if you're not willing to let go. So you have to let go to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's something to be said about realizing and being self-aware that, maybe you are the birth to the toddler phase, right?
Yes.
And then bringing somebody in, and like you said, maybe you still own the majority of the company and you still make the decisions, but at the end of the day, you have to decide, is it all about you, or is it about, the potential of the company, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And Jim Rohn, one of my favorite business philosophers, said it's amazing what can happen when nobody cares who gets the credit.
Yes.
Right?
That's exactly the phrase that applies here. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And with Avanti, we're growing, right? We're setting up these Avanti Entrepreneur Network chapters in different cities now.
Mm-hmm.
And I am that mad scientist entrepreneur, right? I know myself. I should be producing content and making sales. That's me, right? I'm a people person. And I've already surrounding myself with 3 new partners in the business that are really complementary to my strengths and weaknesses, and
mm-hmm.
2 of those guys are much more experienced at just the operations and the detail and the logistics of what it takes to build that strategy to a bigger company. And I feel like, I don't care. I'm the founder right now. I'm the CEO, but down the road, another year, whatever, if I have to, just have a different title, you know what? In my opinion, with this company, it's all about how far can we take it? How many people can we help? And together we're much greater than just being alone, right? So.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And I learned that the hard way. I think my first company probably stagnated because I wasn't really able to let go. And now I can look back and say, wow, I probably should have, and I don't want to make that mistake again.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of life, is we could continue to learn, right?
Yes, and that's a very honest mistake that so many business owners make. And you'll see their first or second business never does what they could have done, but that third or fourth business will take off because they got it. They get it. Yeah.
They stop banging their head against the tree, right?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Excellent. So, Greg, you're very successful. We're doing this on video as well as audio. You look like a healthy guy. Look like you're in shape. Yeah. What are some of your habits and maybe some of the habits that you teach some of your clients that you do every day to stay on top of your game from an overall wellness perspective, mentally and physically and spiritually and personally?
Well, I think that's a very valid question, because your business is only going to be as good as you are. And what I mean by that is not just your mental and your physical well-being, but it's your whole package. And if you're not emotionally steady, if you're not physically well, And if you're not mentally capable of handling some of that stress that comes your way, you will get knocked off your haunches from time to time. And so one of the things that I do every day is exercise, and I build it in my schedule. It's not well, if I get to it, I'll go do it. I mean, and we're very religious about doing that. The other thing is I get up every morning at 4 a.m. My wife and I get up together every morning at 4 a.m. And I don't answer my phone at that time, so nobody called me at 4 a.m. But the first thing I do in the morning is I go through meditation and prayer, and I do that every morning when I first wake up. And then I go into what I call my self-development, whether it's, reading God's word or reading a good book. I mean, I can read a lot in an hour in the morning when it's quiet like that and just absorb it. So the best thing about that is by the time, 6 a.m. rolls around, I already have some things in the bank that nobody can take away from me that day. If I try to do it in the evening, it may or may not happen. But in that time of the day, there's nobody going to compete for that. So it's my quiet time. And I can tell you from my experience, some of my most, and if I can say it this way, my ingenious moments come at that time because it's quiet and you can reflect, and your subconscious has been working on those things at night. And in the morning, it just kind of flows out. I was texting a gentleman this morning at 5:30 with this just incredible idea, and then we've been talking back and forth all day about it. So that's an example of something that birthed out of that quiet time. And then, after that, then it's seeing my daughters off to school, and my wife and I starting our day. And then I can prepare for my clients. So starting early in the day, I think, has been really advantageous for us. Exercising is very advantageous.
You exercise in the morning too?
Well, I exercise midday. So a midday exercise. And then I try to follow up with 2 or 3 people today that I haven't talked to in the last week or two that are important to my either a client or a colleague or a friend. Mm-hmm. And so I try to continue to have relationships too. So those are the 3 things I would say that really kind of help mold my day. And as far as the week goes, I'm very specific on my schedule. So there's only certain things I do on certain days. So Monday's my day. That's what I call Monday, the M for my day. Mm-hmm. My day is the day that I load up on what I need. So I have a mastermind group I'm a part of on Mondays. I have a couple of coaching colleagues that we share best practices on Mondays. And so Monday's my day to get my week started right. So I love Mondays. Most people go, oh man, Mondays are tough. I love Mondays. Mm-hmm. Fridays is what I call free day. So I don't schedule anything with clients or anybody on Fridays. Friday is my day to either catch up or get out of the office. One of the two. Sometimes I go out on the farm. Sometimes I go, make a long weekend. Sometimes I just get caught up in the office. I may be working on a project and I just want to dig deeper because I love what I do. So it's not work to me. It's fun.
Maybe you take a nap because
I'm not much of a napper, but yeah. But then Tuesdays and Thursdays are they're completely focused on coaching and training. So it's my training days. Yeah. And Wednesday's what I call my work day. So Wednesday's the day I have a podcast that I'm starting up. So I'm doing podcast interviews and those type of things. So Wednesday's my work day. Wednesday's the day I get work done. So whether I'm trying to write a blog or what have you. So I'm very protective of those times. Yeah. And I think that has been, and I haven't done that forever. I've only done that for like the last year or so. And it has been an incredible efficiency. I'm getting a lot more time in my life than I ever thought I would by doing just those simple things.
Good for you. You sound very disciplined and putting things in their buckets, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So getting up at 4, you're not the first person on my podcast that I've talked to that is doing that. And so there must be some secret to success about doing that, and I always wonder what time you guys go to bed.
Well, my wife goes to bed about 8:30. I go to bed about 9:30.
Okay.
So, I mean, when I say go to bed, I go to sleep. I mean, I may go to bed with her at 8:30 and later, talk, and then I'll read a little bit and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'd go to sleep about 9:30. So we're pretty disciplined about doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. How long do you meditate for in the morning?
It's typically about 20 minutes.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's to me, it just calms the whole body. To me, it sets the pattern for the whole day. Yeah. And it kind of gives you this resilience against the stress that comes during the day. So yeah.
I'm gonna have to introduce you to a friend of mine for your own podcast. You can interview him. His name is Rob Dubay, and he started a movement called Do Nothing. because meditation changed his life. So he wrote a book, and he has a podcast called Do Nothing, and he had his first silent retreat last summer. 5 days of 20 people not talking, right? And
wow,
and he's doing it again in the summer of 2019. And I'm gonna try to make it. I can't picture not talking for 5 days, but they put a man on the moon. Anything is
you
possible,
might explode, man.
I might explode. I'll have to go. Maybe they have a primal scream room I could go find, right?
Well, that's quite interesting that he does that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'll connect you guys. He's one of the
please do. Yes,
one of my favorite people in the world. So excellent. Well, that is fantastic. So hey, listen, great stuff. If people want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, maybe be able to get exposed to some of your content, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Greg?
For the small business owner, they can go to businessownerfreedom.com, and we're about just what we say there. We're trying to help business owners find clarity and find massive freedom in their life and business. That's the best way for the small business owner. If you want to reach me for additional things, you can go to GregoryGray.com, and that's my name and my website for additional things. So.
And Gray is Gray, folks.
Yes, it is.
Just
yes.
so you know. And you had mentioned you're currently enrolling a weekly group coaching for business owners called the 4 Steps to Business Freedom.
That's correct. So if you are in a business that is a little chaos or you have quite a bit of overwhelm as a business owner, we're doing a group coaching, and it's very reasonable. It's the best way to interact with other business owners and also get some very fantastic coaching. We have a very, very step-by-step program that we take you through, and by the time you get done, you'll have a great structure to your business.
Excellent. Is there any business that doesn't have some stress and complexity?
No, they all have some. Yes.
I think everybody's your client, right? So
yes. Well, yes.
That is excellent. Well, Gregory Gray, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on all your success. And I wish you continued massive success for the future.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And thank you, Avanti listeners, for listening to the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast. To see the show notes on this episode and hear over 100 more interviews and show notes, etc., go to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. I've been doing this for over 2 years, folks, over 100 episodes of incredible interviews, not because of me, because of the guests. I just ask the questions. I have great guests. Check it out, AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Make it a great day and stay awesome.
Thank you for listening. Head over to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com for show notes and more helpful advice from entrepreneurs like you. Continue to find your entrepreneurial rhythm at the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast.